Here we go, and thank you for being here. Yes, I still have the little trigger warning on. You know why? Because freaking YouTube, always gives me simple reminders. Who is in here? Hello, Bonnie. I've missed you. I have missed you. Jessica, good morning. Good afternoon. Angel P. Stephanie Murray. Let's do a poll, shall we? How do you think this is going to shake out? Actually, I'm going to make it an official poll. Give me a second. Because what on earth? This took the jury a long time in jury perspectives. So I'm putting, what do you think the jury will decide? And remember, it's a jury of his peers. Obviously, there's something they really had to consider. Cicada said guilty. Cicada. Hang on. Kat said, does the announcement of a verdict mean it's not hung? No, not at all. They have to read every verdict in open court. It doesn't mean for all of us on TV or on the internet, but they have to read it in open court. So whatever it is has to be announced in open court. So whether it's guilty, not guilty, or a hung jury, they have to read it in open court. Stephanie Murray said, Brooks, if it's a hung jury, will Allen have the same judge next trial? That's up in the air because you don't know if the DA will retry him. You know, because that jury, not that jury, sorry, I got my phone's going crazy. I'm dealing with my kids right now about Thanksgiving. Let me just turn it off altogether. This is ridiculous. Okay, doke. That county doesn't have a lot of money at all. Gaelic Girl, thank you for gifting a Crime Lines and Laws membership. Y'all show some love. These shows are not cheap to do. But I'm very heavily invested in this case because I can't imagine two girls that get lured out by Klein, and then they happen. Okay, so you got one pedo that says, meet me out on the bridge or meet me on the trail. And then they just happen to come across another deviant. Make it make sense. Then you have another deviant that happens to drive by. How can that happen? How many pervos can you have in one park? Please tell me. And to actually meet one. Hell, you've got people, when you go to the grocery store, you don't know what they've done. But you're lured out by Klein. Allegedly, met by Richard Allen. And then you have Brad, who drives by when all this is going on, and nobody on the trail saw two girls with a pew pew to their back being led down the hill across a private driveway over a creek, Deer Creek, the creek bank, and down another hill, and then found on another predator's land, and that would be Ron Logan. Let's talk about this. They could all be guilty, but the way this is set up, it's one and done. One and done. If they get the guilty for Richard Allen, nothing else will be pursued. Take a second and tell all your friends hello. Again, how does it work? I don't understand it. Did the girls frequent the park so much that they were known by these freaks? Remember, they were lured out. They were lured out by Keg and Klein. This is crazy, my friends. I mean, it is crazy. And why more isn't being looked into, or maybe it is, and just nobody called me up and told me. Sorry, I'm losing my voice again. It's that time of year. I don't get it. Let's look at a little something, shall we? This is the known evidence that was taken out of Richard Allen's house. 2 bundles of dark clothing. Well, look like clothing. A shoebox, a Macy's shopping bag, flash photography items in the shed. There was digging around the shed, and a vehicle. And hey, they could all fit the crime. They could all fit the crime. You know, this jury has got to have so many questions. Let's see what they're saying at the courthouse right now.
In this case, Richard Allen yet, have we, Sam?
We have not. In fact, I just walked down the street because we can usually see when he's been escorted in from the Cass County Jail. We have not seen him arrive here yet.
Okay, so we are keeping an eye for that. We know that's about maybe a 25, 30-minute trip. We think that he probably would have gotten notice, but just imagine what that's like for him to be coming here and to know that there could be a decision that forever changes how his life is going moving forward. We've got a lot of people here who are closely watching this case. Kind of describe the scene a little bit, Emily, that we've seen here in these last, now this is the day 4 of deliberations.
Well, I mean, most days, like we've seen throughout the trial, there are people camped out in front of the courthouse. Now, this is a little extra extraordinary because people know word has spread that a verdict has come in. So you have people standing here waiting, phones ready, cameras ready, lots of media. I mean, it definitely speaks to the interest in this case, the great interest in this case. There are people from all over the country that are here and that we have seen here throughout the trial. Lots of different bloggers, and then you've had local folks, and you've seen that people sleeping out overnight, just to see if they could possibly have a public spot inside that courtroom, because each family has had 10 seats. The media has had 12 seats, and the rest, about 24, give or take, each day, was open to the public. And so what you had was people standing in line, waiting outside this courthouse, sleeping out overnight, just to be able to get in line once the courthouse opened, in the hopes of maybe getting a public seat, just to even hear a little bit of the testimony, whichever day it was.
Yes. So, Samantha, you were one of our three staff members who was able to be in the courtroom at times. Kind of describe that room, describe that scene, what you have seen when you witnessed in being in there.
One thing that always stands out to me is the consistency from day to day. And I say that in reference to the families, all of the families.
I understand what she's saying, and I'm 100% on board what she's saying, because the families have never stopped. I just wish certain things had been brought in as evidence. And one thing I wish was brought in is Klein, Pilo's mom, said, lurking in to wait for verdict. Nice to see you all today. Love you. So glad you're here. Why is this Anthony Schatz profile connected to so many people, so many girls, but dismissed from this trial? Because we do know one thing. Richard Allen wasn't in control of it. Look at this with me, please.
13 Investigates is uncovering the first link between a fake social media profile run by Klein and the unsolved Delphi murders. So far, he has never been charged, but Klein was arrested in August of 2020 on 30 charges of child exploitation and pornography. In the transcript of that 2020 police interview with Klein, just a few days after the bodies of Libby and Abby were discovered in Carroll County, another school-age girl gave her address to the Anthony Schatz profile. That girl was getting off the school bus when she says she saw a man in a ski mask looking into her bedroom window. Now, Klein personally knew the girl and her family. And then 5 days later, police raided the home where Klein lived with his father in Miami County. They found over 100 sexually explicit images of underage girls on several devices. Now, in the 2020 interview, police questioned Klein about whether his father had access to those devices. The person behind Anthony Schatz profile was one of the last communications with Libby German before her murder. And after her death, the Anthony Schatz profile told another person that he was supposed to meet up with Libby, but she never showed up. But look at what police told Kagan. Quote, I can honestly sit here and I'm telling you that I do not believe that you killed Liberty. Kagan Klein is not charged with the killings of Liberty German and Abby Williams, as we've mentioned. Police did tell Klein, though, they believe a second person was communicating with the girls using his devices. Klein did not implicate his father either. Now, police are not saying if he has been questioned in the Delphi case.
Again, Cody, what is it like since the last time we spoke? Well, Phil, there is a lot of anticipation once everybody that is allowed into the courthouse went inside. It's been about 15 to 20 minutes at this point, so we are anticipating the verdict at any moment, but we don't know exactly how long this court hearing is going to take. But to bring in some analysis, we have the hosts of the Murder Sheet podcast, Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee. How do you guys think this pans out?
It's a great question. It's so hard to get in the minds of a jury. Are these 12 people seeing a mentally ill man who may have confessed a lot of times because he was psychotic, or are they seeing a killer? That being said, personally, my anticipation is this would be a guilty verdict.
Now, Kevin, does it matter how long these deliberations have gone on? This is day 4. We're approaching 17 hours or so.
Obviously, everybody involved would like to see a quick verdict, but the fact of the matter is this was a long trial with a lot of expert testimony that is very, very complicated. So it's really not too surprising that this jury wanted to take the time to go through all of that and make sure they got it right.
Now, on Saturday, the jury wanted to look at more evidence. What is your take on what that means for today's verdict?
I think when you're seeing a jury request pieces of evidence to review again, in this case, videos involving law enforcement, speaking with Richard Allen, I think you can look into that in a number of ways, but I think generally it's like they want to kind of get that again because in this case, did they want to see like how asking a lot of very pointed, very interesting questions, and that just showed me that they were paying attention. So no matter which way they go, I think we can feel assured that this jury was definitely on it.
Were they skeptical of either side and some of the evidence from the prosecution or the defense?
I felt that their questions
will impact the family of Abby and Libby.
If he's found not guilty, this could mean no justice for these families.
Unfortunately, yes. If he's found not guilty, there's a good possibility. And remember, Phil, even if he's found not guilty, that doesn't mean he didn't do it, right? If he's found not guilty, that just means that the jury, with the evidence, any sort of substance abuse, his family background, any sort of criminal history, and compile a packet for the judge to learn as much as she can. Almost impossible to find somebody else guilty beyond a reasonable doubt without a confession, without DNA.
So
Okay. My Wi-Fi is fucking up. Not going to lie. It is, but I'm here. I promise I am here. I appreciate people coming in and, saying what they've heard. I would like to hear it for myself. And I want to understand the reasoning, the why, who, how, and where. So hopefully we can get to it.
Disturbing new details within a recent
time in which they will get statements from the family, potentially have family members test.
As they heard, Richard Allen remained completely unfazed looking. And we now know that the sentencing will come December 20th.
What was the most emotional part, Kyla, in the courtroom? Was it coming from Abby and Libby's family? Was it, did Richard Allen's family cry? What was the most emotional part?
I would say the most emotional part was when that first count was read. Judge Gold read that. And in the second part was when they took a poll of all 12 jurors, each one of them saying, yes, that was their verdict on all 4 counts. Richard Allen was guilty.
What were the looks on the faces of the jurors as that verdict was read?
For the most part, they seemed not shocked. They seemed relieved for the most part. I saw one kind of sigh into his hands. Of course, they deliberated for 19 hours, been there for days now, and have been sequestered from their families, jobs, homes for a month.
And I believe, so were you surprised when you came out and there was the cheer?
I will say, there's kind of been an interesting dynamic out here I've been here in Carroll County at the Delphi, at the Carroll County courthouse for many, many days. And sometimes, there were people that were Richard Allen supporters. There were people that were really there to remember the girls. And for the most part, it seemed split down the line. So there were higher cheers than I realized.
Yeah, Cody, Kyla, what was it like? Ask Kyla. I don't know if she has an earpiece in IFB. Ask her what it was like inside the courtroom with your cheers inside the courtroom. What was that like? Walk us through that a little bit more if she can.
Yeah, Phil wants to know, were there cheers inside of the courtroom?
The courtroom remained relatively silent, honestly. I mean, after that fourth count was read, we did hear sobs from Richard Allen's wife, Kathy Allen, and his mom, Janice. For the most part, other than that, it was quiet. I did see Becky Patty kind of sigh in relief when that third count was read, and especially when that fourth count was read.
Now, Kyla, just a couple of minutes ago, we saw the jury vans leave, and we also saw the vehicle that Richard Allen had been taken in throughout this entire trial also leave. So did he leave the courtroom at a certain point along with the jury?
He left right after the jury. So the jury left, and then Richard Allen himself left. They let the Allen family leave, and then finally they let Abby Williams and Libby German's family leave.
Now, do we have a sense of when we might hear from either the prosecution or the defense? Because we do have a place set up for a press conference. Do we have an idea of when that might happen?
I will say they didn't indicate when they might speak. I'm sure they have many things to say, both of them. My hunch is that the prosecution will be out here momentarily. They did seem excited. I saw Nick McClellan kind of fall into his hands. It's been 8 years since the girls died, and something that he has personally made his mission here as a prosecutor. So,
okay. Yeah, so I want to touch on something.
One more question, Cody. Then I want to bring Mario back in, okay? So one more question with Kyla. I'll bring Mario back in. You guys sit tight. Go ahead. One more question to Kyla.
Yeah, so Kyla, we have one more question. The sighing, and you've mentioned that a couple of times. Can you get a sense that they are just tired? Everybody associated with this case is just tired, and they're glad it's over.
Yes, Cody, here's the biggest thing on my notes, and you'll see it kind of underlined and circled. Exasperated is the word, exhausted. Judge Gold said many times, you all must be exhausted. She said that even right before and right after.
Yes. Amy in Boston. Yes. I know they wanted justice for these girls, yet someone who did this roams free to do it to more girls. There is a ring. There is a ring. And the fact that the top cop in Indiana said this to Kegan Klein, he said, Bud, from your Dropbox account off your phone, we have started one of the largest CP investigations ever undertaken in the state of Indiana. There is more people involved. Hey, look. If they got one, they got one. But no DNA at the scene from Richard Allen, and no DNA from the girls, from what they retrieved, tells me he is not the murderer. Could be involved. How would you not talk about the Klein family? How does this make sense? How? You have two sketches of two different people from witnesses on the trail that they wouldn't say anything about. Andy said, yes, too much reasonable doubt, for God's sake. And the thing is, Richard Allen is literally crazier than a shithouse rat right now. Barb Murray said he was on the bridge. So were many other people. So were many other people. And he wasn't even wearing those clothes that day, Barb. I mean, This is nuts. Why did they not further investigate the Klein family? Why did they not investigate further Barb said, sorry, but I disagree. I totally respect that. What I want to know is how do you, I really want to know, and I'm going to put the link down. I'm not going to have an argument. How did he do all of this by himself in such a short amount of time? I trust the jury too, Barb. I do. I trust the jury too. He's involved somewhere, but he didn't do all of this by himself. No way. Let me show you why.
Disturbing new details within a recent set of transcripts tied to the Delphi murders. The documents revealing yet another investigation tied to a social media account that's believed to have interacted with Libby German and Abby Williams just before they were brutally murdered in a small Indiana town in 2017. And tonight, we've learned that another young girl may have talked with the person behind that same profile, only she lived to tell police her story. News Nation's Max Lewis has the latest.
And I need more understanding. Now, you all know that when we watch trials, I'm always on the state side. I'm like, they have the evidence. They know more than we do. 100%. Why did they ignore so many other people? It was an unusually busy day out in the park. It wasn't just two girls and one guy out on that bridge. No way. No freaking way. So going down the hill across a private driveway, across Deer Creek, the creek bank. And we know they were moved. The evidence is the girls were moved, and Abby was dressed. Just because he talked to them on the bridge, which was never proven, doesn't mean he did all of this alone.
According to the transcripts, a middle school age girl in Galveston, Indiana, messaged the Anthony Shantz account that she wanted to hook up after school. She said her parents wouldn't be home and shared her address. A day later, when she got off the bus, she saw a man in a ski mask peering into her bedroom window.
It doesn't look to me like there's proof for sure that he was the person peeping through the windows.
Police can't prove.
Barb said, down the hill, girls. Barb, I don't know that he's going to get the death penalty, but I believe wholeheartedly a group of men did this. I do. And I understand that you jump in here and there and like you just kind of put out there like what little bit you know. But we don't know if he's the guy on the bridge. We see this right here, November 3rd of 2022, when the top cop of Indiana said his agency is still looking for others involved in the Delphi murders. I don't give a rat's ass if he was on the bridge. I really don't give a rat's ass. His DNA is nowhere on the crime scene. Nowhere. Barb, I know the same as you, LOL. Barb, you don't know shit. Okay, you don't know anything. So you need to really stop right now. I get where you're coming from. But when the killer leaves 0 DNA behind, there's a friggin' problem, Barb. And don't you dare come to my living room and start shit with me. Because I'm done with that nonsense around here anymore.
Prove it was Keegan Klein peeping into that window, and he denied doing it, according to the transcripts. However, investigators say data shows Klein searched members of that girl's family on Facebook the day before the peeping incident. All of this happened just 3 days after Abby Williams and Libby German were murdered in Delphi.
When you're doing the investigation, again, you want the whole picture. You're finding the pieces of the puzzle that you fill in, and it slowly comes together into something that you can recognize.
Former FBI agent Doug Coons has not worked on this case, but has investigated many others. He says the transcripts have provided a lot of interesting but circumstantial information. While Keegan Klein and his father, Tony Klein, have been at the center of the Delphi investigation, Coons says the information found in these transcripts proves nothing.
All this
Proves nothing because he defends him. Defense attorneys will say everything proves nothing. Nobody has to agree with me. You can go to bed, you can put your head on your pillow and say, that's it. It's done. It's over. He did all of this by himself. All of it. I don't agree. In the beginning, I did when they got him. I did. I was like, oh my God, what a creep. I mean, all this stuff. But I look at this. An FBI search warrant revealed that law enforcement believed the girls lost a lot of blood during their murders with an unspecified weapon, which turns out to be a box knife, and were not killed in the same location where their bodies were discovered. So you're telling me in this short, and I mean short amount of time, they went down the hill, over Deer Creek, up the creek bank. Don't forget about the private drive. They were murdered in one location, which they can't figure out where. And their bodies were moved and posed. And their clothing changed by one person. Without anyone seeing. And don't forget, there was an unspent bullet by them that fits one of Richard Allen's guns. Guess what? That bullet could probably fit one of the guns I have in my house. Don't claw your face. Don't get upset. But yes, some people do own guns.
stuff is great, but you still need that key piece that you take it to court, and then all that will matter.
Investigators eventually raided the Klein home in Peru nearly 2 weeks after the Delphi murders. That resulted in numerous child porn charges against Keegan Klein. Still, despite what transcripts show Keegan told a reporter, officials don't know if Tony Klein had access to that Anthony Schatz account.
It seems to me like there's a lot of pieces around the periphery, but they're still looking for that one that goes in the middle.
Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee are the hosts of the Murder Sheet podcast, and they were the first to obtain these transcripts. They're both joining us live again tonight. Welcome back to both of you. So when you read these transcripts, what were your key takeaways?
It's such a horrifying transcript because it really ties this child sexual abuse materials case that Kegan Klein is facing to the Delphi murders. And it does that through the account, the Anthony Schatz account that Kegan Klein sort of had access to. So for the first time, we're really seeing the link between this Anthony Schatz profile and the Delphi case that so many people are following and hoping for answers in.
But this is all circumstantial, right? If there was a smoking gun of hard evidence, wouldn't prosecutors have brought the charges?
They would. There's a very compelling web of circumstantial evidence, but there's
No, they wouldn't. And I can tell you why. I can tell you why. Because many of them were aware of this Anthony Schatz profile. Many. So when people say, well, Brad Holder was at work that day. You can't tell me Brad Holder is not Bridge Guy. You can't tell me Chadwell wasn't out there. You can't tell me. These are eyewitnesses that have nothing to lose and just telling people. You can't tell me that Sarah also, it was admitted in court. Admitted. That the video from Libby's phone may not have been from Libby's phone and it was spliced. So someone who's about to rape and murder someone is going to stand there and let someone take a video of them. And then plug their phone in hours later and leave the phone behind. Please, on what planet are we on? So Richard Allen is so dumb that he's going to say, oh yeah, go ahead, take my picture. Go ahead. No. No. And they admitted that they don't know the day that it was taken. Listen, if the families are happy, then great. If they have closure, great, because they need that. But these things were openly admitted in court. We do not know when this video was taken. Nufflin said, how can they? They can because they put it in front of a jury. That's the reason I say a lot of times I don't trust juries, especially when the heat's on. And I don't like to pick on other creators, but I'm going to tell you why I think these two from the murder sheet messed a lot of things up. And I won't say it in my words, but I can tell you why I think when they decided to play amateur detective, when they decided to play Inspector Gadget, how things got messed up. Let's get back to Kegan, though.
We're still lacking that one piece of direct evidence that will put the phone in the hand of Kegan Klein or someone else that will prove that he was the one communicating with these girls and would prove beyond doubt that he was the one who arranged to meet with them that day.
So is he now trying to point the finger at his father?
That's a great question. His father does come up throughout this whole transcript, but I would say in the 2020 police interview, Kagan is very much not pointing the finger at his father. He's pointing the finger at a friend who he previously lived with. In the 2021 interview with the HLN reporter, he is more of wobbling on that. He might be saying, well, my dad might have been capable of this, but I don't think he did it. So you see a bit of a wavering in terms of that.
And that he had access to it. He said, my father, yes, I believe he had access to the account, right?
Yes, he says that oftentimes he and his father would share devices and that he would help his father online because his dad was a little bit less tech savvy.
And this is the first time we may be learning of these transcripts, but there's no new information here that investigators.
Great question, Ilyanka. Great question. She said, who's the old friend? The old friend is Ron Logan. The one that was training fish, even though he never left his property that day, because he said he was scared to drive because he doesn't have a driver's license. But he decided to go to Lafayette to get tropical fish. And he was training them when this was going on. Yeah. You have to be kidding me. They're all protecting someone. And in my opinion, it is Tony Klein. Because he's meaner than the devil, in my opinion. They're not protecting Kagan because he's in jail for the next 43 years. There's too many people involved. You think they're all sitting around protecting Kagan? No. And sorry, I'm not well prepared for this show. I'm too spun up right now. I'm too upset. Because the minute that a prosecutor hits that time clock, they only have too much time to get it done. There's other people in Indiana involved. Fucking training fish. Yeah, you really think here's Kagan right now.
First things first, where's your shitter? I've got a turtle head poking in. I got a crap on deck that could choke a donkey. Oh.
To understand Kagan, you have to understand his father and how horrible Tony Klein is. He's horrible. This man, in my opinion, what he has done to his children, other children, the different groups he's in, I understand they interviewed him, and when I get into a little better mood, I will break down that family. But it's not going to be something that you all are going to want to hear. But I want to know how between 2:30 p.m. on February 13th, 2017, and the time of death, that Richard Allen did all of this by himself. We already know the girls were lured out by Kagan. using the Anthony Schatz profile. And hey, good. Richard Allen's guilty. He's probably involved. Where's the rest?
Investigators don't know about. So is it possible that they already ruled out this lead?
As of December 2021, when the HLN interview took place, Kagan Klein was at least under the impression that authorities believed that he had something to do with the Delphi case and that his father may have had something to do with the Delphi case. So that's pretty recent. And sources that we have tell us that the Kleins remain the focus of this investigation at this point.
So is there any evidence that ties Klein to the person outside the girl's window? And even if it was him peeping into the house, does that mean that he's a murderer of these other girls?
Well, the closest thing to direct evidence that ties him to that incident is that earlier that day he had communicated with the girl who was the victim of that incident and had gotten her address. And then shortly after that is when this peeping Tom incident occurred. And it would seem to be pretty coincidental that someone just happened to go there to peep right after this person gave Tony Klein or Anthony Klein or Kagan Klein that address.
And basically what you're seeing is a pattern here, right? So when girls are communicating with this Anthony Schatz account, bad things are happening to them. And so police are going to be looking at who had access to that account.
Right. And are police any closer at this point to solving the murders of Abby and Livy? And have you learned anything new about the case since we spoke to you, aside from these transcripts?
Right. Yeah, we've been definitely continuing to follow up on the lead and speak to people who know the Kleins and know the family and are familiar with that. And I would say that we feel that the transcripts show that police are definitely on a certain path and seem to have an increasingly strong circumstantial case here. But I think time will tell how far along they are at this point.
Well, this is certainly a development that sheds light for all of us, and we appreciate your time tonight, Kevin and Anya. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
I think these two, as much as they wanted to do good, as much as they really wanted to do good and as much as they put out, I think they did more harm than good. Zach Walker said, "Sorry, I missed the show this morning. As a Hoosier, I'm not sold. RA is the only player and not sold on the guilty judgment, if that's what comes down to it." Well, he's been found guilty of all counts. Now, that judge in Fort Wayne, who I don't think has done the best job, I have a feeling she's going to sentence him to death. And then he's going to be down in Terre Haute. And from here, they are not going to investigate all the others, because it's obvious other people are involved. Absolutely. And I agree 1,000,000% with Cop Facts about what was going to happen, because it did happen, because there's other people involved. I'm not saying Richard's not involved, but I'm not convinced that he is the murderer. I mean, how many creeps can you find in one park one day? How many? Let's talk about that. You're lured out by Kagan. Kagan's dad is also involved with the Anthony Schatz. profile. Yes, Richard Allen was on the trail. But the DNA that was found was not entered into evidence. The same jacket and snap hat that Bridge Guy had on was worn by Ron Logan 2 or 3 days after on the news. Same navy blue pullover, same hat. What I say is, get them all. Get them all.
To the murder sheet, who may be in this room.
By the way, I love this dude because he acts like Clint Eastwood. Okay? He does. And he has been pissed about this for quite a while.
Think about the word deplorable. Someone you regard with contempt, disdain, disgusting. Those are words that come to mind, definitions that come to mind. You've broken someone's trust for your own gain. You know, there's plenty of others who know way more than you do, but they're silent. That's called character. I want to thank Kristen from Behind the Crime Door, Steve from True Crime Web, 2 people I caught last night who condemned what you've done, and many others probably that I didn't catch. You should be ashamed. You've jeopardized this case. You've messed up the timeline for law enforcement. You've put people in danger.
Okay, this is so important. You all need to really listen. And I know it's not easy to do when we have our mind made up, but we really, really, really need to listen because he is a detective and he's right. When the murder sheet decided to start playing detective, okay, and they live in New York. It messed up everything. Okay, and no offense, but could you imagine those two getting it on? God! Could you imagine them showing up at your house and trying to do a detective's job? I'm going to start it over because this is really important.
To the murder sheet, who may be in this room. Think about the word deplorable. Someone you regard with contempt, disdain, disgusting. Those are words that come to mind, definitions that come to mind. You've broken someone's trust for your own gain. You know, there's plenty of others who know way more than you do, but they're silent. That's called character. I want to thank Kristen from Behind the Crime Door, Steve from True Crime Web, 2 people I caught last night who condemned what you've done, and many others probably that I didn't catch. You should be ashamed. You've jeopardized this case. You've messed up the timeline for law enforcement. You've put people in danger. You've put KK in danger. You've put law enforcement in danger.
Okay, so when he says you've put KK in danger, he's talking about Kegan Klein. You know why? Because when you put these things out, they actually get to people that are in jail. And they will kill them. And they aren't useful to law enforcement if they're dead. Cray Cray said, who is this guy? Angel P just put his link in, and I would love to have him on the show. Let the police investigate. I would rather it take 20 years to get it right than rush to justice. I like when he said, you're here to protect, not predict.
You've put KK in danger. You've put law enforcement in danger. You've probably tainted a potential jury. Character. Yours has been damaged. And it's deserved. I hope you got all the views you wanted. You know, there's a way that you can tell when it's really cold outside. You don't need a weatherman, but you can tell it's really cold outside when you see an attorney walking down the street with their hands in their own pockets.
To kind of just reiterate really what.
That's true. That's true. There's more involved, in my opinion. There's more involved, in my opinion. Now, I mean, and some people believe that Richard Allen is Batman and that he could do all this by himself. All of it. And if they believe that, that's 100% on them. That's the reason we're not detectives, right? And now it's done. And they, at this point, will not be looking for more. Was Richard Allen involved because he was on the bridge? Maybe. Maybe, maybe not. But the jury has spoken and he's guilty. And the judge will probably put him to death in Terre Haute. And from there, they will not investigate any further. And sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes that's what happens. No DNA. Nobody could pick him out in court. Nobody would ask, is that the man you saw? And of course, everyone appeals. It's almost automatic. In my opinion, by that time, he'll be dead. But no way he did this alone. The time itself doesn't allow it. Hey, look, if they've got him in jail and he's part of a murder, good. Leave him there. But you have to explain something to me. How in that short amount of time did one person do this? I don't know, but it looks like I have some work to do. And so do all of you. Because everyone that's been brought up in this case needs to be looked into. I know several are in jail. For being in this CP ring. That's true. That's true. They are. You know, we have the Odinists that all have, you know, trouble of their own. But murder is murder. And nobody, in my humble opinion, should go down for murder unless they 100% without a reasonable doubt did it. Or if there's other people involved. Cicada said Kegan said his dad could have done this, didn't he? Yep, he did. And for some reason, Tony Klein is very protected in this case. I've asked before, and I'll ask again, would you all like me to do a show about Tony Klein and Kegan and the people that are around them? Because they're a scary bunch of critters. All right. I'll get to it. I will get to it, my friends. All right. Well, you all have a great rest of your Monday, as if there's such a thing. I'm losing my voice. So I'm going to go get some tea. I love you all, and I will see you tomorrow. We have a members live. Do not forget, we have a members live. It's already posted. Don't miss it, because we have a lot of stuff to do and to talk about. If you are not a member, you grab that link and you put in your 8 quarters, and let's do this. You guys are the best. Bye-bye.